For the folks out there thinking, well, is it going to make sense to explore Paramount's deal or not? And I know everyone's reluctant to speculate on this topic, but can anyone give us any sense about whether they believe that there will be more participants in a direct-to-exhibitor arrangement beyond Paramount and Fox?
None of the other studios are here. I mean, you have to ask them directly. The one thing I did want to point out, though, and make really clear is that the nature of the direct-to-exhibitor deal that 20th Century Fox offers, and we've been really careful in architecting the deal in this manner, is that it does not interfere with the business of distribution and exhibition. And we have done everything possible to keep the relationship between distributor and exhibitor as pure and as separate as possible, so that not only do you have all of the flexibility that you currently have in terms of playing our movies, but our architecture allows you to expand and contract the number of screens in order to maximize the box office for everyone concerned. It tries to limit the amount of obstacles that would be in your way as you run your operations. As I said, it's a really mature financing agreement, and it just needs a management, in terms of what the systems cost and when they get paid off as an accounting matter, that it keeps very separate and does not invade the space between distribution and exhibition, which I think is a critical thing. So, I think we support both direct-to-exhibitor agreements as well as third-party deployment agreements, and we've added to the mix an ability for you guys to sprinkle 3D as much as you think it's necessary should you have the financing to do it.
It's interesting as we go through some of this stuff, and I agree with both Mark and Julian, that you can see what complexities that go on to create an entity that has to have, from a financing standpoint, a third party, a bank, that doesn't have the influence over either the exhibition or the distribution of the film, but to get comfortable that those agreements are going to be lived up to. So you don't have a one-page agreement, you don't have a 20-page agreement, you have something quite more than that, if both of you guys work with us to put those together. But then to go out to the market and to be able to raise this money, you have to have the insurances that you can have those multiple distributors all sign the same agreement with the MFN clause. And that, while you have maybe a date certain, there is cost recoupment on here, and you can only raise a certain amount of money against that contract. And that then goes into what does it cost to get the machines deployed. And so you have a cost certain with regard to the machines deployed, and the bigger you can create this entity, the better you can drive costs down, the more you can get from the financing standpoint, because you have greater diversity amongst the obligors, which are ultimately the studios, and so it works in that regard. When you come to a direct-to-exhibitor agreement, there is going to be at some point a third party involved, potentially as a financier, and they're going to want to look at that agreement and make sure all of those assurances are built into that agreement. So it may be on the 1 or 20-page agreement, it may start to get into the larger agreements as we've negotiated.
Well, I still go back to if your local circuits, regional circuits were together, we could go get local financing at one of our regional banks and really not have all of these complicated agreements, but be able to, finance the equipment through virtual print fees, even though I say the business model is just for 3D and would pay for itself on its own today. But assuming that we are going to go to 2K, which I don't know what it's in for the exhibitor today, the 35 millimeter is still better. So I'm not sure what it does for the exhibitor. It apparently helps the film companies. But if that's the way we're going, then, as a general sales manager told me, what's the difference? I asked him, what's the difference between a hard drive and a 35 millimeter print? And he said 40 pounds. And just as an exhibitor wanting to show a movie, all this complication about financing and virtual print fees, it seems like if distribution wants 2K, then give us the money and let us put it in and let's keep going. Otherwise, we have to do it at our own pace.
Just a country lawyer. All right. You
I probably won't get another print from anybody.
You raise a great point, though, George, because the essential premise, of course, to the whole self-financing arrangement is that exhibitors have access to credit themselves at a local level, whereas the huge amounts of credit necessary for the industry may take longer. I'd like to hear, Bill, George, Andy, or Julian talk about a little bit about whether that's realistic at this point, or whether local credit may be just as difficult as the big chunks.
I just want to respond very briefly to some of your remarks. I think a digital platform has got great benefits that will reside not only with distribution in terms of potential print cost savings, but with exhibition as well, because it will allow exhibition the capabilities for platforms that you simply cannot have with a film projector, which includes things like alternative content, which is a growing business. It certainly includes things like 3D, where the grosses so far have been 2, 3, and 4 times the numbers of conventional 2D. That would not be a practical approach in today's world with film projectors. And we are working really hard right now, because I think there are benefits for both distribution and exhibition down the road, to pay the lion's share of the system cost and be done when we're done. And while we're working that hard to do that, the one thing I'd like to sort of to communicate to everyone is that I don't know that 20th Century Fox is going to be there forever to help with the financing. And should you choose not to buy digital systems and keep film projectors, that's totally your prerogative, and it's your decision out there as well. But if you're not going to be an early adopter, and there are a lot of people who believe that the transition is inevitable, it's going to happen whether you like it or not, because of the benefits. If you don't join one of these programs and you don't engage in the conversations where you think these things are so complicated, you need to get involved, and you need to engage, and you need to try and understand how the financing does work, because ultimately, if there are just a few exhibitors out there that are keeping film projectors, that's great, and we'll supply you with prints as long as we have them, but we may not be there for you contributing virtual print fees at the same level, if at all, if you're waiting for certainty at the end of the day.